The battle outside the palace had been fierce, but Sam and Ariella had made it through. The royal guard had managed to hold the rebels back, and after a long, tense night, the fighting began to die down. Sam stood beside Ariella, his heart still pounding from the adrenaline, but they had survived. The run had led them to safety, hiding in a secret chamber beneath the palace, where only a few trusted allies knew the way. The sound of distant gunfire still echoed through the halls. But for now, they were safe. Sam could hardly believe it. He had come to this world as a diplomat, a peaceful negotiator, and now here he was, standing beside the woman he had married, fighting for her future, for their child. He had never imagined that his life would take this turn, but he knew one thing for sure. He would never leave her side. Ariella sat down on a stone bench, her hand resting gently on her stomach. Sam joined her, his eyes searching her face for any sign of fear or worry. But there was none. She was calm, steady, even in the face of everything that had happened. And Sam knew why. "I'm scared, Sam," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "This is just the beginning. The rebellion may be over, but there are still those who will never accept us." Sam took her hand in his, squeezing it gently. "I know, but we're stronger now. We've proven that we can survive anything. Together." Ariella looked at him, her eyes soft with emotion. "You're right. We've made it through the hardest part. And now we can build the future we've always dreamed of." As they sat there in the quiet of the hidden chamber, Sam couldn't help but think of the future. He had come to this alien world expecting nothing more than a diplomatic mission, and now he was a part of something far bigger. He was a husband, a father-to-be, and a protector of a world he had once known nothing about. Ariella's pregnancy had been a symbol of hope for Varelia, but it was more than that. It was proof that even in the darkest times, life could find a way to begin again. The child they were expecting wasn't just the first of a new royal bloodline. It was the symbol of a new era, a time when humans and aliens could coexist and build something stronger than either could alone. The door to the chamber opened softly, and Thurun entered, his face tired but relieved. "The rebels have been defeated, Your Highness. The palace is secure once again." Sam stood up, his hand still on Ariella's. "What happens now?" Thurun looked at them both, his face full of respect. "Now, Your Highness, you lead. The people of Varelia will follow you. And with your child, you will bring them the hope they've been waiting for." Ariella stood, her back straight, her eyes filled with determination. "This is only the beginning. But together, we will rebuild. For our child. For Varelia." Sam smiled at her, knowing that their journey was far from over. But now, no matter what challenges came next, they would face them together, united in love, hope, and the promise of a future they had created with their own hands. And for the first time, Sam felt truly at home. On the glowing planet of Varelia, the royal palace stood tall above silver mountains and green skies. The people admired their leaders, but they did not know the pain hidden behind the royal walls. Princess Ariella, daughter of the High Queen, carried a secret that haunted her every day. She could not have a child. For 3 generations, no daughter of the royal family had become pregnant. The people thought it was a personal choice or bad luck. But the truth was darker. A silent curse had fallen on the royal bloodline. Healers and scientists tried everything, but nothing worked. It was as if something in their bodies had turned off the gift of life. Ariella was kind, strong, and wise. She smiled in public and spoke with confidence, but when alone, she often stared at the stars with quiet tears in her eyes. Her mother, the queen, had warned her since childhood. Without a child, the royal line ends. And when the line ends, chaos begins. One day, while reading old books in the palace library, Ariella found something strange. It was an old scroll, written in ancient symbols. After days of study, she decoded a message. "The blood of Varelia shall remain still, until joined with the seed of distant soil. The words repeated in her head again and again. Seed of distant soil. Could it mean someone from another world? A human? Ariella brought the scroll to the palace scholars. Some laughed. Others grew silent. One old priest whispered, "This is the prophecy. The one they buried long ago. It speaks of a foreign being, a human, whose presence would break the curse." Most called it a myth. But Ariella was different. She believed in hope, even when it was small. And deep in her heart, something told her this was not just a story. It was a clue. At the same time, far from Varelia, Earth had sent a small diplomatic team to meet with alien rulers. One of them was a young man named Sam. He was not a soldier, not a scientist, just a friendly diplomat who liked to listen more than speak. He had no idea that destiny had already written his name in alien history. As his ship approached Varelia, Ariella stood on the palace balcony, her long hair flowing in the wind. She looked up at the sky, where the human ship appeared as a small star. She did not know who he was, but her heart beat faster. The princess whispered to herself, "Maybe this human is the answer." Little did she know her life, and the fate of two worlds, was about to change forever. Sam stepped off the transport ship and looked around. Varelia's sky was green and bright, with floating crystals in the air and soft-colored clouds. He had visited other alien worlds before, but this place felt different. Peaceful, yet powerful. The welcome ceremony was grand. Alien officials, dressed in glowing robes, formed lines and sang in a language he didn't understand. Sam stood calmly, smiling politely, even though he felt out of place. He wasn't a warrior or a famous leader. He was just a young human diplomat here to discuss trade deals. In the middle of the gathering, Princess Ariella appeared. She was graceful and calm, her blue-purplish skin glowing gently under the twin suns. Her small elf-like ears twitched slightly as she watched Sam. He looked at her and gave a respectful bow. She nodded in return. In that quiet moment, their eyes met, and something passed between them. Neither understood what it meant yet. After the ceremony, a grand feast began inside the palace. The large hall was filled with strange fruits, glowing liquids, and dishes Sam couldn't name. He tried everything with a sense of curiosity. Ariella watched him from across the table. She noticed he was polite, careful, and kind to everyone, even the lowest servant. That impressed her. Then something unexpected happened. An ancient artifact sat in the middle of the hall, placed there as a symbol of the royal family. It was a smooth black stone covered with gold lines. For centuries, it had remained cold and lifeless. Many had forgotten its purpose. As Sam walked past it, the stone suddenly lit up, bright and humming with energy. The entire hall froze. Guards stepped forward, weapons raised. The queen stood in shock. The priests whispered loudly. Ariella rushed over, her heart beating fast. She stared at the stone, now glowing like fire, then turned to Sam. "No one has ever activated it," she said softly. Sam looked confused. "I didn't do anything." Ariella's voice trembled. "You touched nothing. And still, it responds to you. Just like the prophecy said." Sam felt the pressure build in the room. "What prophecy?" Ariella looked at him with wide eyes. "The one that says a human can break the royal curse." Sam laughed nervously. "I'm not magic. I'm just a man." But Ariella didn't smile. She stepped closer and whispered, "Maybe you are the one I've been waiting for." Sam had no idea what was coming. But after this moment, his life would never be simple again. After the feast, the palace was filled with silence and whispers. Everyone had seen the ancient artifact light up when Sam walked by. The queen called an emergency meeting. Some believed Sam was the human from the prophecy. Others thought it was just a strange mistake. Sam was brought to a private chamber under heavy guard. He wasn't arrested, but it was clear they didn't know what to do with him. He waited there for hours, confused and worried. Then the door opened. Princess Ariella stepped inside. She looked different now, more serious. She wore a long silver robe, and her eyes held a strange mix of hope and fear. "I'm sorry," she said. "You've been treated like a prisoner. That wasn't my wish." Sam stood up. "I didn't mean to cause trouble." Ariella nodded slowly. "You didn't, but you may have changed everything." She sat down and told him everything. The curse, the prophecy, the fear of the royal family ending, and the message hidden in the scroll. The seed of distant soil. Sam listened carefully. He didn't laugh this time. It all sounded unbelievable, but the glowing artifact was still fresh in his mind. He felt something had truly shifted the moment he stepped on this planet. "So, what now?" he asked. Ariella looked him in the eye. "There is only one way to prove the prophecy is real. We must be bonded." Sam blinked. "You mean married?" She nodded. He was silent for a moment, shocked. "Princess, I'm not even from your world." "I know," she said quietly. "But if you are truly the one, our union may break the curse. My people will survive. A new child could be born." Sam paced the room. "This is too fast. Too serious. You don't even know me." Ariella's voice softened. "I didn't choose this, but I have a duty. And I see something different in you. You're not like others. You don't want power. You just want peace." Sam sighed. "Even if I agreed, wouldn't your people be angry?" "They already are," Ariella said. "Some will never accept you. But if you say yes, I will stand beside you." Sam sat down again, thinking hard. He had come here for peace talks, not marriage, not magic, not saving an alien kingdom. But something inside told him this was bigger than just politics. Maybe, just maybe, he was meant to be here. He looked at her and asked, "If I say yes, what happens next?" She replied with a quiet smile, "We prepare for a royal wedding." The days leading up to the royal wedding were filled with tension and uncertainty. Sam had agreed to marry Princess Ariella, but he still couldn't shake the feeling that everything was happening too fast. He was just a human diplomat who had stumbled into a prophecy. Now he was about to marry an alien princess to save an entire empire. The royal palace buzzed with preparations. The finest fabrics were woven into elaborate dresses, and the grand halls were decorated with flowers that glowed under the twin suns of Varelia. Sam felt out of place as the alien nobles stared at him, whispering behind their hands. He had never been in a situation like this. He wasn't a king or a prince. He was a visitor, a stranger. Princess Ariella, on the other hand, seemed at ease. She had always known this moment might come, though she never imagined it would be with a human. She stood tall, her pale blue skin glowing softly in the dim light of the palace. Her small elf-like ears twitched every time someone spoke, but her face was calm. She had a duty to her people, and this marriage would either end the royal curse or bring chaos to her world. On the morning of the ceremony, Sam stood nervously at the altar, dressed in a fine robe provided by the palace. He had never worn anything like this before, and it felt strange on his body. His heart raced as the doors opened, and Princess Ariella stepped forward, her silver gown shimmering with every step. She looked beautiful. There was no doubt about it. But what Sam noticed most was the determination in her eyes. This wasn't just a marriage. It was a lifeline for her people. It was the only chance to change their fate. The priest began the ceremony, speaking words Sam couldn't fully understand. He tried to follow, repeating the vows as best as he could. He looked at Ariella and saw the same determination in her eyes that he felt inside. It wasn't just about a political marriage anymore. It was about two beings from different worlds coming together to break a curse, to create something new. When the priest said, "You may kiss the bride," Sam hesitated. He had never kissed a royal princess before. But Ariella leaned in, her cool lips meeting his. The moment was brief but powerful. It was a promise, a bond that would change everything. As they pulled away, Ariella's eyes sparkled. "It's done," she said softly. "We are united." Sam nodded, feeling the weight of the moment. He hadn't expected this. He hadn't even wanted this. But now he couldn't imagine being anywhere else. He was a part of her world now, and somehow it felt right. Outside, the people of Varelia cheered, celebrating the union of their princess and the human who had brought hope to their dying kingdom. Sam and Ariella were now married, bound together by fate and prophecy. But as they stepped out into the sunlight, Sam couldn't help but wonder, was this just the beginning of their journey? Or would something else challenge their union before they could break the curse? The days following the wedding were filled with excitement, but also with uncertainty. Sam and Ariella spent much of their time in the palace, adjusting to their new life together. Sam had no real idea of what to expect from this marriage, but he was determined to help Ariella in any way he could. He promised to stand by her. And now, more than ever, that promise meant everything. Princess Ariella, however, had a sense of quiet hope that she had not felt in years. For the first time in a long time, she dared to believe the curse might truly be broken. She had felt different since their wedding. Her body felt alive in a way she had not known before. At night, she could almost feel something stirring within her, a strange energy she had never experienced. One evening, as the sun set over the Crystal Mountains, Ariella stood before the palace's healing chamber. A team of royal doctors had been summoned to run the first test on her since her marriage. They had to be sure, was she truly changing? Was the prophecy correct? Sam waited outside the chamber, his heart beating faster with every passing minute. He still couldn't believe any of this was happening. How could a human, someone like him, play a part in such a powerful prophecy? But every time he looked at Ariella, every time he saw her smile or felt the warmth of her presence, he felt a deeper connection. He was part of her world now, and somehow it felt like he had always been meant to be here. After what seemed like hours, Ariella emerged, her face filled with both excitement and nervousness. Sam rushed to her side, his eyes searching hers. "So," he asked, his voice a little shaky. They found something," Ariella said softly. "I'm changing, Sam. I'm becoming something I never thought possible." Sam could hardly believe his ears. "What does that mean? Are you?" Ariella nodded. "It's true. I'm pregnant, Sam. I can feel it." The words hit Sam like a wave. He reached out to hold her, feeling a rush of emotion. It was real. It was happening. The prophecy, the curse, it was all coming to life in front of him. And somehow, it was because of him. "I don't know how this happened," Ariella continued, her voice shaking with emotion. "But I believe in it now. I believe in us." Sam held her tightly, his heart swelling with a mix of pride and disbelief. "I never thought I'd be a part of something this important." "You are, Sam," Ariella whispered, her hand resting on her stomach. "You're not just a part of this kingdom now. You're a part of me. And together, we can change everything." The two of them stood there in the fading light, the world outside still, silent, as they absorbed the weight of their new reality. It wasn't just about breaking a curse anymore. It was about the future they were now building together. A future that no one could have predicted, not even the people of Varelia. In that moment, Sam knew that their journey was far from over. But he also knew that, no matter what came next, they would face it together, united by love, fate, and the spark of new life growing between them. The news of Ariella's pregnancy spread quickly throughout the royal palace and beyond, but not everyone was pleased. While the people of Varelia celebrated, a faction of nobles and military leaders began to voice their concerns. The prophecy had foretold that a human would bring new life to the royal bloodline. But there were many who didn't trust humans, especially a foreigner like Sam. In the dark corners of the palace, whispers of rebellion began to grow. "How can we allow a human to carry on the royal bloodline?" Some said, "What if this child is a threat to our way of life?" Sam had been warned about the political dangers, but he hadn't fully understood the depth of the resistance. He and Ariella spent their days in the safety of the palace, but every night They could feel the tension rising. One evening, as Sam walked through the royal gardens with Ariella, they were approached by a familiar face, Captain Thurun, a trusted member of the royal guard. His stern face was usually calm, but today there was something different about his expression. "Your Highness, I must speak with you," Thurun said, his voice low. Ariella stopped, sensing the seriousness in his tone. "What is it, Captain?" "There are rumors that a group of nobles are planning something. They do not accept the union between you and the human." Sam tensed. "What does that mean? What are they planning?" Thurun looked around to make sure no one else was near. "They're talking about a rebellion. They want to stop the marriage and the child. They believe that the bloodline of Aurelia is pure, and no human should be allowed to change it." Sam's heart sank. He had known there would be challenges, but he hadn't expected this. Ariella, too, looked troubled but remained calm. "I will not let them harm you," Sam said, his voice firm. Ariella placed a hand on his arm. "This is my fight too, Sam. I am the princess, and I must protect my people. But I need you by my side. I cannot do this alone." Thurun nodded, his face softening. "You have my loyalty, Your Highness. But you need to prepare. There are others within the palace who support this cause. I fear they are planning to strike soon." The news weighed heavily on both of them. Sam and Ariella had faced challenges since their union, but this was different. It wasn't just about the prophecy anymore. It was about survival, about protecting their family and their future. That night, Sam couldn't sleep. He lay beside Ariella, watching the stars through the palace window. He thought about how far he had come, how much he had changed. He wasn't just a diplomat anymore. He was part of something much bigger, something that could shape the future of an entire world. But with that responsibility came danger. And Sam knew that the road ahead would be full of obstacles, not just from enemies outside the palace, but from those who were supposed to be his allies. As he turned to Ariella, he whispered, "We'll face this together, no matter what happens." She smiled softly, her hand resting on her growing stomach. "Together, Sam. Always." And so, with new strength and determination, they prepared for what lay ahead. The fight for their future had only just begun. The days after Thurun's warning were filled with tension. Sam and Ariella could feel the weight of the rebellion growing around them, like a storm gathering in the distance. Every day, Ariella spent more time in meetings, consulting with her loyal allies, while Sam stayed by her side, ready to protect her and their unborn child. The palace seemed different now. The once peaceful halls felt colder, the whispers of nobles and soldiers growing louder. Sam couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to happen. Ariella, however, remained focused. She had always known that ruling wasn't easy, but now, with the added pressure of carrying the future of her people, she felt the weight of her duty like never before. One afternoon, as Sam and Ariella were walking through the palace garden, she stopped to rest beside a fountain. The sound of water flowing softly made the moment feel peaceful, almost like the world outside the palace walls didn't exist. Sam sat beside her, his hand gently resting on her shoulder. "How are you feeling?" he asked. Ariella looked at him, her eyes full of both hope and fear. "I'm scared, Sam. This child, this prophecy, it's too much for me to bear alone." Sam's heart ached as he held her hand. He could feel her worry, her uncertainty. She had carried the weight of her people's future for so long, and now, with the rebellion threatening everything, the pressure was almost too much to bear. "You're not alone," Sam said softly. "We're in this together. I'll stand by you. Always." Ariella smiled, her face softening as she looked at him. "I know. And I believe in you, Sam. I never thought I would find someone like you. Someone who sees me as more than just a princess. You've shown me what it means to love, to trust." Sam nodded. "And I've learned more about myself than I ever expected. I came here to negotiate peace, not to fight for a future, but now, I'm ready for whatever comes. For you, for our family." The word family hung in the air, heavy with meaning. It was a word neither of them had fully understood until now. Sam had never imagined that he would be part of an alien royal family, or that he would become a father to a child that would unite two worlds. But here he was, standing beside the woman he loved, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As they sat there in the garden, a sudden movement caught Sam's eye. Thurun, the captain of the royal guard, approached them with a serious expression. "Your Highness, Sam," Thurun began, bowing slightly. "There's news. The rebellion has begun." Sam's heart raced. "What do you mean, begun?" Thurun's face was grim. "There are riots in the streets. Some of the nobles have taken up arms and are demanding that you be removed from the palace. They've started a march to the royal gates." Ariella stood quickly, her hand on her stomach. "We need to stop this before it spreads." Sam grabbed her hand, determination in his eyes. "We will. We'll protect our family, Ariella. No one will tear this apart." The palace was on the brink of chaos, but Sam and Ariella knew they had to stand firm. Their love, their child, it was more than just a prophecy. It was a new beginning, and they were ready to fight for it. The news spread quickly through the palace. The rebellion had begun. Sam and Ariella had barely finished their conversation in the garden when the first loud crash echoed through the palace. Sam's heart skipped a beat. There was no more time to waste. The enemy was at the gates, and the future of Aurelia was on the line. "Sam," Ariella whispered, her voice steady, but filled with worry. "We need to leave. Now." Thurun, standing nearby, nodded grimly. "I will take you to a safe place, Your Highness. The royal guard is holding the gates, but we can't let them get any closer." Sam's mind raced. He had never been in the middle of a rebellion before. He wasn't a soldier, wasn't trained for combat. But in this moment, none of that mattered. He had sworn to protect Ariella, and that was what he intended to do. Together, they made their way through the back halls of the palace. The sounds of chaos grew louder as they moved farther away from the main courtyard. Guards shouted orders, and the palace trembled with the weight of the rebellion outside. As they reached a hidden corridor, Ariella stopped for a moment. "We can't let them destroy everything," she said, her voice heavy with determination. "This kingdom is my responsibility. I can't let it fall." Sam placed a hand on her shoulder, his gaze soft but firm. "You don't have to carry this alone anymore. We're a team, remember." She looked up at him, the weight of the world in her eyes, but for the first time in days, she smiled. "Yes, we are." Thurun led them through the secret passages of the palace, where the rebels hadn't yet breached. But the sounds of gunfire and shouting grew louder with every step. It was clear the palace was under siege, and they had little time. They reached a small fortified room deep in the palace, where Ariella's closest allies had gathered. The room was quiet except for the heavy breathing of the royal guards. Everyone turned to look at the princess as she entered, and for a moment, it felt as though time had stopped. "We'll hold this room until help arrives," Thurun said, his voice calm despite the danger surrounding them. Sam looked at Ariella, and for a moment, they both stood still. In that silence, they shared an unspoken understanding. The rebellion wasn't just about power, it was about fear. Fear of change. Fear of a future that didn't look like the past. "We'll make sure our family survives," Sam said, his voice steady. "No matter what." Ariella nodded, placing her hand gently on her stomach. "For our child. For our future." The rebellion raged on outside, but inside that small room, a new strength was born between Sam and Ariella. They had faced unimaginable challenges already, but this was different. This was their fight, and they would face it together. The room filled with tense silence, broken only by the distant sounds of war. The palace was in chaos, but inside this room, they had found something worth fighting for. And they would fight until the very end. The hours dragged on in the small fortified room deep within the palace. The sounds of the rebellion outside were constant now. Shouting, explosions, the crackle of gunfire. Sam and Ariella, surrounded by the royal guard, could only wait and listen. Every minute felt like an eternity. Sam had never imagined his life would come to this. He was a diplomat, trained to negotiate, to talk his way out of difficult situations. But now, standing beside the woman he had promised to protect, he knew words wouldn't be enough. This wasn't about diplomacy anymore. It was about survival. Ariella, though shaken by the chaos around them, remained calm. She had been raised to be a leader, to make hard decisions, but the weight of her crown had never felt heavier. She had once thought the hardest part of her life would be ruling an empire. Now, as she realized the real challenge was protecting the people she loved, and the future they were trying to build together. "Sam," she said quietly, her voice barely audible over the noise, "I don't know what will happen next, but I won't let them take you from me. Not now. Not ever." Sam turned to her, his heart swelling with emotion. "I'm not going anywhere," he said firmly. "We'll get through this together, Ariella. I promise." Their eyes met, and for a brief moment, the sounds of the outside world faded. In that silence, they both understood that this fight wasn't just for the throne or the kingdom. It was for the life they were building together, for the child they would raise, no matter the cost. The door to the room suddenly burst open, and Thrun entered, his face grim. "Your Highness, the rebels are getting closer. We have to move now." Ariella stood immediately, her face hardening with resolve. "Lead the way, Captain. We will not let them tear apart what we fought for." Sam felt a surge of determination as he followed Ariella and Thrun through the maze of corridors. The palace that had once been a symbol of power and peace now felt like a labyrinth of danger. But Sam had never felt more alive. With each step, he felt the weight of his promise to Ariella growing heavier, but also more important. They reached a secret escape tunnel that would take them to safety, but as they approached the entrance, the sound of footsteps echoed down the hall. The rebels had found them. Thrun moved quickly, drawing his weapon and signaling for Sam and Ariella to take cover. "Stay behind me," he said, his voice steady despite the danger. Sam did as he was told, pulling Ariella behind a corner. His heart pounded in his chest, but he kept his focus. They had come so far, and he wasn't about to let this be the end. As the rebels rounded the corner, Thrun fired first, taking down one of the attackers. Sam's breath caught in his throat, but he didn't hesitate. This was no longer a battle of words. It was a fight for survival, and he was ready to stand beside Ariella to the end. The rebels were fierce, but Sam felt something inside him, something strong and unyielding. He wasn't just a human in an alien world anymore. He was part of this fight. He was part of this family, and he would protect them at all costs. The battle outside the palace had been fierce, but Sam and Ariella had made it through. The royal guard had managed to hold the rebels back, and after a long, tense night, the fighting began to die down. Sam stood beside Ariella, his heart still pounding from the adrenaline, but they had survived. Thrun had led them to safety, hiding in a secret chamber beneath the palace, where only a few trusted allies knew the way. The sound of distant gunfire still echoed through the halls. But for now, they were safe. Sam could hardly believe it. He had come to this world as a diplomat, a peaceful negotiator, and now here he was, standing beside the woman he had married, fighting for her future, for their child. He had never imagined that his life would take this turn, but he knew one thing for sure. He would never leave her side. Ariella sat down on a stone bench, her hand resting gently on her stomach. Sam joined her, his eyes searching her face for any sign of fear or worry. But there was none. She was calm, steady, even in the face of everything that had happened. And Sam knew why. "I'm scared, Sam," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "This is just the beginning. The rebellion may be over, but there are still those who will never accept us." Sam took her hand in his, squeezing it gently. I know, but we're stronger now. We've proven that we can survive anything. Together. Ariella looked at him, her eyes soft with emotion. You're right. We've made it through the hardest part. And now we can build the future we've always dreamed of. As they sat there in the quiet of the hidden chamber, Sam couldn't help but think of the future. He had come to this alien world expecting nothing more than a diplomatic mission, and now he was a part of something far bigger. He was a husband, a father-to-be, and a protector of a world he had once known nothing about. Ariella's pregnancy had been a symbol of hope for Varelia, but it was more than that. It was proof that even in the darkest times, life could find a way to begin again. The child they were expecting wasn't just the first of a new royal bloodline. It was the symbol of a new era, a time when humans and aliens could coexist and build something stronger than either could alone. The door to the chamber opened softly, and Thurun entered, his face tired but relieved. The rebels have been defeated, Your Highness. The palace is secure once again. Sam stood up, his hand still on Ariella's. What happens now? Thurun looked at them both, his face full of respect. Now, Your Highness, you lead. The people of Varelia will follow you. And with your child, you will bring them the hope they've been waiting for. Ariella stood, her back straight, her eyes filled with determination. This is only the beginning, but together we will rebuild, for our child, for Varelia. Sam smiled at her, knowing that their journey was far from over. But now, no matter what challenges came next, they would face them together, united in love, hope, and the promise of a future they had created with their own hands. And for the first time, Sam felt truly at home.